through the Deadlands where the air burns your lungs. Rusted gears, grind meat, fungal bloom on tongues. Skin peels with every mile, blood clots round your eyes. This dark country chews your soul, feeds on muted cries. Flames lick the marrow bare, shadows gorge on fear. Step inside this festering pit, ain't no leaving here. Strap your mask, it won't save you from the reek. Guns jam with rot, your screams grow weak. From mariners' bogs to tech-port splintered piers, the Deadlands flay you strip by strip, bathe in outlaw tears. Embers choke on blood and grime, the ramble's yours to roam. Die slow in this steaming grave, welcome home. Like in sun up, I'll show you around.
Greetings YouTube, and welcome back to the next chapters of Deadlands Between Cities. Like, sub, bell, all that good stuff. Right. Let's jump in. Chapter 9, Nest of the Damned. The Deadlands stretched silent and treacherous as Rain led Kane and Evie south toward his bunker, the night deepening into a black void, pierced only by his flashlight beam. The ruined town they'd left behind faded into memory, replaced by a sprawling industrial graveyard. Rusted silos leaning like broken sentinels, medieval stone arches tangled with fungal vines, and Art Deco facades crumbling into the sand. Rain's pace slowed as they neared a sunken rail yard, its tracks swallowed by dust. He raised a fist, signaling a halt, his blue eyes narrowing through his goggles. "Tracks?" he said, kneeling to brush sand from claw marks gouged into a steel tie. "Fresh. Runners, maybe more. Headed west." Kane crouched beside him, axe resting on his shoulder. "That thing from the caravan?" "Likely," Rain replied, standing. "Too deliberate for a pack. It's marking for others to follow." He adjusted his mask, the filter humming faintly against the spore-thick air. "Nest's close. We follow, we find it." Evie shifted, her bow strung and ready, her voice tight. "You're sure it's not a trap?" "Not sure of anything," Rain said, checking his rifle. "But I'm not waiting for it to come to me. You in or out?" She nodded, gripping her dagger. Kane cracked his neck, shotgun in hand. "Let's kill the bastard." Rain led them west, tracing the tracks to a hulking structure, an old train depot. Its Gothic roof collapsed into a maze of steel beams and fungal growth. The walls were a patchwork of stone and riveted iron, windows shattered into jagged moors. Tendrils pulsed along the exterior, glowing faintly, their spores drifting like ash. The air was wet, rancid, clinging to their coats as they approached the entrance, a gaping hole where double doors had rusted away. "Lights on, masks tight," Rain said, flicking his flashlight to his belt. "Shufflers'll be thick in there. Runners, too. If it's a nest, don't breathe deep. Spores'll root in your lungs, no saving you." Kane adjusted his half-mask, muttering, "Can't wait." Evie pulled hers snug, her brown eyes sharp behind cracked goggles. They stepped inside, boots sinking into a carpet of fungal rot, the beams cutting tight shadows across the gloom. The depot's interior was a cathedral of decay. Rotted train cars sat on warped tracks, their steel hulls webbed with glowing tendrils. Slumpers slumped against the walls, zombies reduced to fungal sacks, their bodies bloated and still, oozing black sludge. Shufflers shuffled in the dark, their groans echoing off the high ceiling. Rain's light caught one lurching from behind a car, and he slipped in behind it, gave its head a sharp twist, its head lolled, and put his kukri in its forehead, a spray of gore that splattered across its face. "Keep moving," he whispered, stepping over the corpse. Kane took point, shotgun ready, while Evie flanked, arrow nocked. The nest tightened around them, corridors narrowing into fungal-choked tunnels, the air so dense their filters whined. A shuffler lunged from a side passage, and Kane blasted it apart, the boom deafening in the close quarters. Chunks of flesh and fungus rained down, sticking to his coat. "Quiet, damn it!" Rain hissed, but the damage was done. A chorus of groans rose, joined by a runner's snarl. Three barreled from the shadows, gaunt, fast, their fungal veins pulsing. Rain dropped one with a headshot, the rifle's report ringing in his ears. Evie loosed an arrow, pinning a second through the chest. It staggered, clawing at the shaft, and she finished it with a dagger to the skull, black blood coating her gloves. Kane swung his axe, cleaving the third's head clean off, the body twitching as it hit the floor. "Nice shot," Kane grunted at Evie, wiping his blade. She smirked, fleeting but fierce. Rain didn't smile. His light swept deeper, catching a cavernous chamber, once a loading bay, now a fungal heart. Tendrils carpeted the floor, walls pulsing with glowing veins, slumpers dotting the edges like grotesque statues. In the center, a pile of bones gleamed, human, fresh, stripped clean. Above, a catwalk sagged, and a shadow moved, tall, broad, gas mask glinting in the dark. That yellow eye locked on them, unblinking, before it slipped into a tunnel. "There," Rain barked, breaking into a run. Kane and Evie followed, boots slipping on the slick rot. The chamber erupted, shufflers rising, runners dropping from the catwalk. Rain slashed his coppice through a shuffler's neck, fungal guts splashing his pauldrons. Kane fired, the shotgun slug shredding two at once, their torsos exploding in a wet mess. Evie danced between them, an arrow sinking into a runner's eye, her dagger slashing another's throat as it lunged. They hit the tunnel entrance, a narrow shaft of stone and steel, fungal walls closing in. Rain's light caught claw marks, deep, deliberate, leading up. "It's climbing," he said, slinging his rifle and drawing his kukri. "We're right behind it." The tunnel twisted, the air suffocating, spores clogging their filters. A runner ambushed from a side vent, tackling Kane. He roared, slamming its head against the wall, fungal skull cracking like an egg, then finished it with his axe, panting. "Too damn tight in here." "Keep going," Rain snapped, pushing past. The tunnel opened into a platform, rusted girders overlooking the bay, fungal tendrils dangling like nooses. The specialized zombie stood at the edge, gas mask tilted, claw arm gleaming. It didn't attack, just watched, then leaped, vanishing into the dark below. Rain cursed, peering over the edge. "Lost it. Bastards toying with us." Evie caught her breath, wiping gore from her dagger. "It's smart. Too smart." "Smart dies same as dumb," Kane growled, reloading his shotgun. "Next time, I'm blowing its head off." Rain didn't argue, but unease gnawed at him. The nest was a trap, not to kill, but to test. That thing knew them now. "Out," he said, turning back. "Regroup at the bunker. We're not ready for this yet." They retraced their steps, fighting through a thinning swarm, shufflers falling to blade and shot, the air thick with death. Outside, the night felt clean, the fungal stench fading. Rain's mind churned, coffee, whiskey, a plan. The hunt was on, and the Deadlands were playing for keeps. Interlude. Shadows of the past, the Deadlands hung in twilight as rain came, and Evie pressed south from the fungal-choked train depot, smoke bellowing after they lit a fire, the nest's rot fading into the dust behind them. The sky was a bruise of purple and grey, spore clouds drifting like ghosts over a landscape of shattered suburbs, half-timbered houses sagging beneath industrial smokestacks, their Art Deco facades peeled away by time. Rain led, his trench coat whispering against his greaves, rifle slung low, his flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. Kane trailed, axe resting on his shoulder, his breath sharp with the strain of the fight. Evie followed, bow slung, her steps light but weary, the weight of the day settling into her bones. They'd been walking an hour, the silence thick between them, broken only by the crunch of boots on gravel and the distant wail of a runner's too far to matter. Rain's bunker was close, 2 miles, maybe less, but the quiet gnawed at them, a void begging to be filled. Evie broke it first, her voice soft, testing the air as they skirted a rusted steam wagon. "You're a Deadlander, Kane," she said, glancing at him. "No title, then. But Rain called you a runaway. What's your story?" Kane's brown eyes flicked to her, then away, his goatee twitching as he chewed the question. He adjusted his shotgun sling, stalling, then shrugged. "Not much to tell. Grew up in Novovostok, City 6, lawless shithole run by the Volkov cartel. My folks were laborers, broke their backs hauling scrap till the fungus took 'em. Shufflers got sloppy one night. I was 10, maybe 11. Cartel snatched me after slave work, chains and all. Beat me till I stopped crying, then made me pit fight for scraps." Evie's pace slowed, her brown eyes softening, though her mask hid the frown. "You were a kid." "Kids don't last there," Kane said, voice flat but edged. "Got good with an axe. Cracked skulls when they threw me in pit fights. Master was a pig named Grigori. Fat, drunk, liked to watch us bleed. Killed him, axe to the throat, blood all over his fancy coat, grabbed his shotgun. Ran that night. Runners chased me out here, but I made it. Been scrapping out here since. Wanted to be a father someday. Build something better. Fat chance now." He kicked a stone, sending it skittering into the dark. Rain glanced back, blue eyes sharp but silent, then kept walking, listening, not judging. Evie absorbed it, her fingers tracing her dagger's hilt. "That's why you're so pissed all the time," she said, half teasing. "Angry at the world." Kane snorted, a flicker of a grin breaking through. "Maybe. What about you, dancer? Caravan girl with a bow. Where's that come from?" She hesitated, her gaze dropping to the cracked earth, then lifted it, voice steady but laced with ache. "Valmontaigne, City 4. Born there. Raised by performers, my family, the Baudelaires. Actors, singers, dancers, acrobats. Mum taught me to move. Parkour came from dodging stagehands as a kid, twirling through chaos. My sister's acrobats used to explore the city. Dad was the brains, taught me to read, think, hunt when we'd camp between shows. We were tight, respected, even by King Alaric. He summoned us for some grand performance, biggest gig we'd ever had. Then, you saw. Runners, that thing with the mask. I'm the last one left." Her words hung, heavy as the spore haze. Kane's scowl softened, his axe dipping slightly. "Hell of a way to lose 'em. You're tougher than you look. Holding up after that." "Had to," she said, shrugging, but her eyes glistened briefly before she blinked it away. "Rain pulled me out. Then you. Didn't want to be alone, still don't." "Alone's overrated," Kane muttered, almost to himself, then louder. "You're not bad company, Evie, even if you're a pain sometimes." She smirked, a spark of her rash edge cutting through. "Right back at you, Kane. Least you're honest about it." Rain's voice cut in, dry and low from ahead. "Touching tails, you two. Save the tears, bunkers up there. Move it." They glanced up. He stood on a rise, silhouetted against the fading light, pointing to the fortified police station's husk, its garage door a dark slit in the stone. Kane huffed, but his lips twitched. Evie laughed softly, the sound a rare ripple in the Deadlands gloom. They picked up pace, falling in behind him, their shadows stretching long, three shapes forged by loss, bound by dust and blood. The bunker loomed closer. Sanctuary. Rain's silence said he'd heard every word, filed it away. Kane's fury, Evie's grief, their fragile trust. The Deadlands whispered around them, a howler's cry faint on the wind, but for now they were a pack, raw, jagged, alive. The past lingered, but the hunt waited, and Rain's lessons would carry them through. Chapter 10. Fangs in the Dark. The trek to Rain's bunker stretched into the early hours, the Deadlands cloaked in a stillness that felt like a held breath. The rail yard had faded behind them, replaced by a dusty sprawl of ruined suburbs, half-timbered houses sagging under industrial smokestacks, their Art Deco flourishes peeled away by fungal rot. Rain led the way, his flashlight beam slicing through the dark, his trench coat stiff with dried gore. Kane followed, axe swinging at his side, his breath sharp with exhaustion. Evie brought up the rear, bow-strung, her steps light but tense, brown eyes darting to every shadow. The bunker loomed ahead, A fortified police station, its stone walls cracked but standing, medieval turrets fused with steel plating. The underground garage entrance sat beneath a collapsed overhang, its heavy iron door sealed tight. Rain knelt, firing up the steam lock with a hiss of pistons, the mechanism groaning as it slid open. Home sweet home, he muttered, waving them in. Lights on, weapons ready. Something's off. Kane frowned, shotgun raised. What's that mean? Means I don't like the quiet, Rain said. Why is the air filter off? Rain thought, stepping into the garage. His beam swept the space, concrete walls lined with shelves of gear, a cot beside a cluttered workbench, his steam cycle gleaming in the corner. Books sat stacked near a dented coffee pot, a flicker of comfort in the gloom. But the air was wrong. Damp, sour, heavier than it should have been. Evie froze, her voice a whisper. Spores. Faint, but here. Rain's mask snapped up, filter whirring. Nest breach. Check the corners. Now. They fanned out, beams cutting through the shadows. Kane reached the back wall, near a rusted vent, and cursed. Found it. The grate was pried open, fungal tendrils snaking from the hole, pulsing faintly. Before he could react, a slumper erupted, its bloated body splitting the vent apart, fungal mass spilling like a ruptured sack. It didn't move like a shuffler or runner, just lunged, a wall of rot and teeth knocking Kane flat. Shit! He roared, shotgun blasting point blank. The slug tore through its chest, spraying black sludge across the shelves. But the thing kept coming, fungal arms wrapping around him. Rain charged, coppice slashing through its neck, the head rolling with a wet thud. The body slumped, oozing, and he hauled Kane up, gore dripping from both of them. Pay attention, pup, Rain snapped, spinning as more groans echoed from the vent. Two slumpers dragged themselves out, slow, massive, their flesh distended with fungal growth, jaws gaping wider than humanly possible. Evie loosed an arrow, piercing one's eye. It shuddered but didn't stop. They're tough, she yelled, drawing her dagger. Rain fired his Curt 45, 3 shots cracking into the second's skull, fungal brains splattering the steam cycle. It collapsed, but the first reached Evie, a claw swiping her leg. She yelped, tumbling back, blood welling through her shorts. Kane roared, axe burying into its spine with a crunch, fungal cords snapping. He hacked again, splitting its torso, the stench choking the air as it finally fell. Stay down, damn it! He shouted at Evie, panting, his coat soaked in rot. Rain grabbed a flare from his belt, lighting it with a hiss. Vent's a nest feeder. Burn it out. He tossed it into the hole, flames licking up the tendrils, the glow illuminating more slumpers deeper in. The fire spread fast, too fast, fungus crackling like dry tinder, smoke billowing into the garage. Out! Rain barked, grabbing Evie's arm and pulling her up. She limped, clutching her dagger, blood streaking her leg. Kane snatched a crate of ammo from the shelves, stumbling after them. The blaze roared, heat searing their backs as they hit the ramp. Rain slammed the door shut, the steam lock grinding into place, sealing the inferno inside. I took your nest, now you're taking mine, huh? Outside, the night air hit like a slap, cold and spore heavy. Rain dropped Evie against the wall, checking her wound, shallow, a graze, but bleeding steady. He yanked a bandage from his belt and a small salt vial, dumped the salt on the wound, then wrapping it tight, Evie squealed. You'll live. Walk it off. She nodded, wincing but silent, her mask fogged with shaky breaths. Kane dumped the crate, kicking the dirt. Whole damn bunker's gone. What now? Rain glared at him, voice ice. Now you stop swinging that axe like a blind drunk and start thinking. Slumpers don't breach like that. Something drove 'em in. The specialized? Evie asked, pushing herself up. Maybe, Rain said, reloading his pistol. It's on now. Or we're just cursed. Either way, we're exposed. Nearest outpost's Ashen Reach, half a day west. We move at first light. Kane's fists clenched, his goatee twitching with fury. This is bullshit. I didn't sign up to lose everything. You signed up to survive, Rain shot back, stepping close. Cry later. We're alive. Focus on that. Kane glared, then deflated, slumping against the wall. Evie watched them, her voice soft but firm. He's right. We're not dead yet. That's something. Rain snorted, a flicker of dark humor breaking through. High praise from the dancer. Rest up. Dawn's in 3 hours. I'll take watch. He turned away, rifle slung, staring into the dark. The bunker was compromised, his sanctuary torched. Coffee and books were ash now, but the hunt remained. That yellow eye was out there, and it'd pay. Behind him, Kane and Evie settled into uneasy silence, the Deadlands whispering threats on the wind. That's it for now, pups. Like sub bell, you know how it works. See you all for the next chapters. Bye bye.